5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
This is About Space, America's return to space, with news and information on our U.S. space program. Is your host of About Space, David Denal.
Welcome and thanks for joining me as we continue our series, Return to the Moon to Stay. NASA has just finalized the contract for the initial crew module of the agency's Gateway Lunar orbiting outpost. Last week I shared about the scientific instruments being sent to the lunar surface in advance of the first woman and next man on the moon. But this week's announcement is just as important. Details next on About Space today. Are you ready to fly away on a dream vacation? For cruises and all-inclusive resort vacations, call D&D Cruise and Tours at 877-747-8631. That's 877-747-8631. And see us on Facebook, D&D Cruise and Tours, where your dreams become a reality.
In Jamaica, we live by the don't worry philosophy. And Only Sandals gives you more of Jamaica because everything's included at 6 spectacular resorts. So you can stay at one and play at all of them. Play more, man. Dine at more restaurants, no problem. And celebrate more. All included, all unlimited. Sandals Resorts. More of Jamaica's best from the world's best.
With a ranger's hat and shovel and a pair of dungarees, you will find him in the forest, always sniffing at the breeze. People stop and pay attention when he tells them to beware, 'cause everybody knows that he's the fire-preventing bear. Smokey the Bear, Smokey the Bear, growling and a-growling and a-sniffing in the air. He can find a fire before it starts to flame, that's why they call him Smokey, that was how he got his name.
Welcome back. The Orbital Science Corporation of Dulles, Virginia, is a wholly owned subsidiary of Northrop Grumman Space, has been awarded a $187 million contract to design the habitation and logistics outpost, HALO, for the Gateway, which is part of NASA's Artemis program that will help the agency build a sustainable presence on the moon. Now, these two first elements of Gateway, HALO, and the PPE, Solar-Powered Propulsion Element, both will be launched together in 2023. With more details is NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine.
Now, Space Policy Directive 1 is not just about delivering small payloads to the surface of the moon. It's about much more than that. It's about having a sustainable human presence on and around the moon. In order to achieve that objective, we need a permanent command and service module in orbit around the moon. We call it Gateway. I hear people sometimes say, well, you know, Gateway is not a space station. It is not. It is a command and a service module. But it will have the opportunity to have crew. The other thing that's important about Gateway is it's going to utilize solar electric propulsion to be maneuverable. When we go back to Apollo, we remember that we landed 12 astronauts on the surface of the moon over a period of 3 years, 1969 to 1972. Each one of those missions was to the equatorial regions of the moon. And because of that, we never went to the poles. Well, there's a lot of valuable material at the poles, namely water ice. We discovered it in 2009 in massive quantities, hundreds of millions of tons of water ice at the poles of the moon. Well, what Gateway represents is an opportunity not just to go to the moon over and over again in a sustainable architecture, but it represents an opportunity to get to more parts of the moon than ever before. Our goal is not just to land in one spot of the moon and learn a whole lot about all of the things that are happening in 1 kilometer around that one spot. What we're interested in doing is learning all about the entire moon. Friends, there is a lot about the moon we don't yet know, and Gateway is going to allow us with this reusable command and service module with solar electric propulsion. It can be in that equatorial region, that near rectilinear halo orbit. I was told by my comms folks never say that word because nobody knows what it is, but I just said it. But it's also going to go to the poles of the moon. It can go to the north, it can go to the south, L1 and L2, giving landers, rovers, robots, and humans more access to more parts of the moon than ever before. We don't want to miss anything ever again. There's a lot to learn, and this is about sustainability. When we talk about sustainability, what does that mean? That means we need to be able to launch mass payloads off the surface of the Earth. We need the SLS, and we need the Orion crew capsule, and we need the European service module, all of the above. And some people say, because I have said quite regularly, when the president says go to the moon, and he says go sustainably, in other words, this time when you go, you need to stay. When the president says that, what does it mean? It means we need reusability. We have seen what happens in low Earth orbit when we reuse rockets. The costs go down and the access goes up. We need reusability in the entire architecture between the Earth and the moon. Reusable launch, reusable tugs, reusable command and service modules in orbit around the moon, reusable landers, robots, rovers, all going, human landers going to the surface of the moon. Everything needs to be reusable, built into the architecture. And that's really what Space Policy Directive 1 is all about, a sustainable return to the moon. When it comes to SLS, and on this point, I want to be crystal clear. SLS is not reusable, but it is a critical piece of the architecture that enables us to deliver reusability to the moon. We're talking about launching Gateway and Orion and the European service module. All of these things are part of a reusable architecture. We're talking about a rocket that's bigger than any rocket that's ever been built in human history, with a payload fairing capable of carrying volumes that we've never seen before, taller than the Statue of Liberty, to take our, not just astronauts to the moon, but at the same time, co-manifested payloads at the same time. This is a transformational strategic capability for the United States of America. And I want to stop for just a second and let you know this. SLS and Orion and Gateway, and in low Earth orbit, the International Space Station, commercial crew, commercial resupply, and commercialization of low Earth orbit for habitation, all of this is very strong in the President's budget request, and we are thrilled as an agency that he is backing up not just with Space Policy Directive 1, but with his budgets. And this is going to help us build that sustainable return to the moon.
NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine. The HALO, the Habitation and Logistics Outpost, will be pressurized living quarters where astronauts will spend their time while visiting the Gateway. About the size of a small studio apartment, it will provide augmented life support in tandem with NASA's Orion spacecraft. Thanks for joining me today, and be sure to follow us on Facebook at aboutspace.today. And listen to our new Friday news report, America in Space, with Rick Potluck from our Washington Bureau. And don't forget, share our program with your family and friends. Join me next week as we explore America's return to the moon to stay. I'm David Denault. This has been About Space Today.